I was born with a collar around my throat and a law already written against me. The Moon Temple called me an Omega, but the pack called me something smaller, property. A girl meant to kneel, to serve, to keep her scent lowered and her voice soft. I learned early that freedom was a story other wolves were allowed to tell, never me. Yet the night everything changed, the crescent moon hung low over the kingdom, sharp as a blade, and the air tasted of prophecy. I had been taken from the village and marched through the castle gates in chains, accused of a crime I barely understood, hiding a rogue shifter pup in the river reeds. The law said rogues were enemies. My heart said he was just a frightened child. The pack council said my mercy was treason. I expected execution. Instead, they dragged me into the highest tower of the castle, the Alpha King's Tower. Its stones were rough beneath my bare feet, cold enough to numb the skin. The guards shoved me into the moonlit chamber and stepped back with visible fear, as though the shadows might swallow them whole. And then he turned. The Alpha King. Rowan. His silver eyes caught the moonlight first, glowing, ancient, heavy with the kind of power that lives in a wolf's bloodline long before he draws breath. He stood tall, broad-shouldered, dreadfully still, as though carved from the obsidian throne itself. His wolf hovered beneath his skin, restless, watching me. I had expected cruelty. Instead, his expression cracked, just for a heartbeat, as my scent reached him. Shock. Recognition. Something like pain. His voice was low, edged with danger and wonder. Bring her here. The guards pushed me forward, but Rowan raised a hand, stopping them instantly. No, he murmured, stepping down from the raised platform. I will come to her. He approached slowly, each step deliberate, like a wolf approaching a frightened creature he didn't want to startle. I could feel the bond before he spoke it. A pull. A warmth. A spark beneath my ribs. He inhaled, just once. Then his voice dropped to a whisper only I could hear. O moon goddess, you're mine! And my world, every chain, every law, every cage I'd ever known, tilted beneath my feet. For a long moment, Rowan didn't speak again. The guards shifted uneasily, exchanging glances. Even they could feel the air shift, thick, humming, threaded with something ancient. His silver eyes swept over the iron shackles biting into my wrists, and a low, dangerous growl curled up from his chest. It vibrated through the stones, through the air, through me. Who put these on her? Rowan asked. The nearest guard swallowed hard. The council ordered. Rowan's gaze snapped to him, sharp as a blade. The council does not command my mate. My breath caught. Mate. He'd said it aloud. Spoken it into the air like a vow carved into the bones of the world. I'm not your mate, I whispered, throat tight. His gaze softened, just a fraction, but the intensity only deepened. You can feel it, he said quietly. The bond. The pull. The way my scent drags your heartbeat into rhythm with mine. I did feel it. Moon above, I felt it. But I'd been taught to fear that feeling, to hide it, to run from it. I'm a servant. I murmured. A slave. The council will never allow. Do not speak of yourself that way. Rowan stepped closer, lowering his voice. You were born Omega, not owned. I was born in chains. He exhaled sharply, pain flickering across his features. Then I will break them. He moved before I could protest, gripping the iron shackle. His fingers tightened. Magic and strength rippled through him. The metal groaned, then snapped like brittle bone. The guards flinched. I stared. My wrists were free. He took the second shackle and broke that one too, softer this time, almost reverent. When the final chain fell to the floor between us, Rowan's voice dropped to a near inaudible growl. No law, old or new, will ever bind you again. I should have backed away. I should have feared him. He was an Alpha King, a shifter touched by prophecy, a ruler whose howl could summon thousands. But when he reached out and brushed a thumb across the raw marks on my wrists, I didn't move. His touch was fire and moonlight. Tell me your name, he said. Lyra! Rowan breathed it like a prayer. Lyra! He repeated. If fate has chosen you, then destiny will answer to me. And for the first time in my life, I felt something impossible. I felt chosen. Rowan led me down the spiral tower steps with slow, measured steps, keeping a respectful distance even as the bond pulled taut like a thread of silver between us. Every floor we passed trembled with murmurs, guards whispering, nobles stopping mid-conversation, warriors straightening like statues. The scent of fear and confusion mingled with raw curiosity. Word traveled faster than footsteps in a castle this old. By the time we reached the great hall, the pack council was waiting. 12 alphas. 12 sets of hard eyes. 12 wolves who already saw me not as a woman, but a threat. High Alpha Marin stepped forward, his voice gravelly. Your Majesty, we ordered that Omega's execution at dawn. She harbored a rogue shifter. That is treason. Rowan didn't blink. She is under my protection. That Omega is nothing but a servant. She, Rowan interrupted sharply, is my mate. Gasps echoed like wind through dry leaves. The council's reaction splintered, some disbelief, some fury, some fear. Marin's lip curled. An Omega's slave cannot be Luna. The prophecy. The prophecy speaks of a bound Omega who will shatter a kingdom's law, Rowan said coolly. Not one of your choosing. One of mine. Their sense soured instantly. You would break the law for her? Another counselor demanded. I would break the world, Rowan answered. The hall fell silent. I stood frozen beside him, heart pounding so loudly I feared they'd hear it. Rowan's presence next to me felt like a shield forged from shadows and moonlight. But even a shield could crack. Marin's gaze flicked toward me like a blade. And what of the rogue pup she hid? He is a danger. Her actions endanger every pack in the kingdom. Rowan stepped forward, silver eyes bright as burning ice. She showed mercy, he said. Something this council forgets how to value. The law exists for a reason, Marin hissed. Yes, Rowan agreed. And sometimes that reason is fear. The council bristled. Rowan turned slightly toward me. Lyra will be given chambers in the royal wing. She will be guarded, not imprisoned. Marin's voice dropped dangerously. If the Omega stays, war will come. Rowan's reply was simple. Final. Then let it come. And the bond between us flared like a heartbeat made of fire. My new chambers were nothing like the servant quarters I'd known, no cold stone floors, no straw pallet, no chains. Soft furs lay across a carved bed frame, and moonlit tapestry curtains rustled with the breeze. But comfort did not erase fear. I sat on the edge of the bed, fingers twisting in the fabric of my dress. Beyond the window, the crescent moon hung over the kingdom like an omen. A soft knock at the door. Rowan entered, closing it with quiet finality. His armor was still on, moonlight glinting off the dark steel. I won't stay long, he said gently. I just needed to ensure you're safe. Safe. A word I had never been called before. When the council looks at me, I whispered, they see a crime. When I look at you, Rowan said, I see fate. My breath caught. He came closer, slowly, always slowly, as if afraid to overwhelm me. He sat beside me, leaving a careful gap. I know you didn't choose this bond, he murmured. Or me. His voice softened. I will never force you into anything, claim, mark, Luna role, or even closeness. My heart ached. No alpha I'd known ever offered choice. You said the prophecy. I hesitated. He nodded. The moon goddess spoke of an Omega born in chains. One whose freedom would break the throne's law. His eyes flicked to the open window. I thought it meant rebellion. War. I never imagined it meant you. He reached out, but stopped just before touching my hand. Lyra, he whispered, I will protect you. Even from my own kingdom. Something inside me cracked, something I'd kept sealed for years. Why? I asked. Why go against everyone? Against tradition? Against the council? He finally let his fingers brush mine. A light touch. A question, not a command. Because fate chose you for me, Rowan said softly, and I choose you for myself. His thumb grazed my knuckles, sending sparks of warmth into my chest. I've never been chosen, I whispered. Then you will be, he said. Every day. And the bond hummed between us like a promise the world wasn't ready for. The next morning, chaos tore through the castle. Rogues at the border. A rival Alpha approaching. Rumors spreading like wildfire that the Alpha King had broken law for a low-born Omega girl. Rowan stormed through the war corridor, cloak whipping behind him like a shadow. I followed close with 2 guards, my heart pounding. The war tent was already full. Generals, scouts, and council members gathered over a map carved into the wooden table. Marin spoke first. Iron Fawn wolves crossed the ridge. They're testing us. They sense weakness. Rowan's voice was a low, lethal growl. They sense nothing but my patience wearing thin. Another counselor jabbed a finger toward me. This is because of her. You endangered the kingdom for 1 Omega. My guards tensed. I shrank back, but Rowan turned on them like a storm. Lyra is under my protection, he snarled. Say her name with respect. You risk us all. I protect us all, Rowan snapped. And I will not sacrifice my mate to satisfy your fear. The tent fell silent at the word mate. Rowan took a breath, the alpha energy in the room shifting as he regained control. Scouts, he ordered, report. A young warrior stepped forward nervously. The Iron Fawn pack is gathering near the Crescent Cliffs. They have allies. Rowan stiffened. Rival alphas. My stomach twisted. The air tasted of storm and tension. Prepare the defenses, Rowan said, but quietly. I will not show weakness, nor aggression, until we know what they want. Marin stepped forward again. You should send her away. Hide her. If they sense your bond. Rowan's silver eyes flashed. Anyone who threatens my mate will answer to me personally. The room froze. He turned to me, stepping closer. Lyra, he said softly, but the entire tent heard it. You stay where I can protect you. My pulse skittered. Why are they coming? I asked. Rowan didn't look away. Because the kingdom is changing. And wolves fear change. His hand brushed mine briefly, a whisper of contact meant only for me. But I will not lose you, he murmured. Not to prophecy. Not to war. Not to them. The bond warmed between us again, wrapping around my ribs like a vow. A vow the rest of the kingdom wasn't ready to accept. That night, sleep refused to touch me. The moon hung heavy above the royal wing, pale and watchful, as if the moon goddess herself leaned close to listen. I paced the chamber, fingers brushing across the carved window frame, feeling every tremor of worry beneath my skin. Rival alphas. Iron Fawn wolves on the border. Prophecy stirring awake. And me, an Omega born in chains, at the center of it. The door creaked softly. Rowan stepped inside without armor, dressed in a dark tunic, silver eyes glowing faintly in the gloom. He closed the door behind him with the same care he'd used since the moment he freed me, as if afraid to disturb the fragile place I was learning to stand. You couldn't sleep either, he said. I shook my head. Rowan crossed the room quietly, stopping a respectful distance away. His presence warmed the air. My wolf leaned toward him instinctively, seeking comfort, sensed safety. Even though my mind still battled fear. You're thinking about Iron Fawn, he said. I'm thinking about everything, I admitted. War. The council. The prophecy. You. His gaze softened. What about me? That you're risking your throne, I whispered. For me. Not for you, he said gently. With you. The distinction knocked something loose inside me. He moved closer to the window, studying the moonlit courtyard below. Wolf patrols paced in pairs. Torches flickered along the walls. The kingdom felt tense, holding its breath. When I became Alpha King, Rowan began slowly, I believed law was the only way to hold this realm together. Order. Strength. No room for softness. You think mercy is softness? I asked. He shook his head. I used to. Not anymore. He turned toward me fully, the moonlight painting silver across his features. You showed mercy to a rogue pup, he said. You risked execution to save a child. That isn't weakness, Lyra. That is the kind of strength the old kings never understood. My chest tightened. I'm no Luna. I murmured. Not yet, he said softly. But the kingdom already feels your presence. The council fears you because they feel the prophecy stirring. His voice lowered. They fear you because you are my destiny. My breath hitched. His hand lifted, hovering just beside my cheek, not touching, just waiting. May I? He asked. Consent. Choice. Two things I had never been offered. I nodded. His fingertips brushed my cheek, then slid gently along the line of my jaw. My skin shivered beneath the warmth of his touch. His wolf rumbled softly, a sound meant only for me. I won't let the world hurt you, Rowan whispered. And I won't let prophecy or law decide what we become. I leaned into his touch, pulse racing. Rowan, I whispered. Lyra, he breathed. I will face every rival alpha this kingdom holds if it means keeping you safe. And in that moment, standing in the moonlit tower with his fingers pressed softly to my skin, I realized something terrifying and beautiful. The Alpha King wasn't just protecting me. He was falling for me. And I was falling back. The next morning arrived with the sharp howl of warning horns. I jolted awake in the royal wing, heart racing. The air itself felt tense, as if the castle stones held their breath. Outside the window, wolves sprinted across the courtyard, warriors shouting orders. A guard burst into my chamber. Omega Lyra, His Majesty requests you in the war chamber immediately. Fear twisted, but I dressed quickly, pulling on a cloak Rowan had left for me, a deep blue one lined with soft fur. The fabric was warm and comforting, carrying his scent. As I stepped into the corridor, the guards flanked me protectively, guiding me through the winding stone halls to the war chamber, an ancient room carved directly into the mountain beneath the castle. Inside, tension crackled in the air. Rowan stood at the table, hands braced on either side of a massive territory map. Generals circled him. The pack council lurked like shadows along the walls. When Rowan saw me, something in his posture eased, subtle, but unmistakable. Lyra, he said, beckoning me forward. Almost every head in the room snapped toward me. She doesn't belong here, Marin muttered. Rowan shot him a cold look. She belongs wherever I stand. Heat flushed my cheeks. What's happened? I asked, stepping beside Rowan. A scout bowed. Your Majesty, a messenger from Iron Fawn crossed the border carrying a marked blade. A hush fell. A marked blade was an alpha challenge. Rowan picked up the blade from the table. The metal was dark, chipped, and stained with dried blood. Etched along the hilt was a crescent symbol twisted into the shape of fangs. Iron Fang's sign. It means Darius wants a confrontation, Rowan said. Wants? Marin barked. It means he demands it. A duel between alphas. A fight for dominance. For territory. For the right to rule. My heart lurched. Can't you refuse? Rowan shook his head. Refusing suggests weakness. He'd bring war to our gates. The tension in the room thickened. He wants to face you because of me, I whispered. Rowan's jaw tightened. He wants to face me because he smells change. The kingdom is shifting, and he fears what he doesn't control. He moved closer, lowering his voice. This isn't your fault, Lyra. Marin scoffed. If she weren't here. Rowan turned on him with a low growl. Enough. The room fell silent. He faced me again. Darius is challenging not just my rule, but the bond the moon goddess placed between us. My chest tightened. What will you do? He exhaled slowly. What I must. I will meet him at Crescent Ridge. At dawn. Cold dread washed over me. The ridge was dangerous, steep cliffs, icy winds, unpredictable footing. A place where one wrong step meant death. Rowan saw the fear in my eyes and reached for my hand, not hesitating, not hiding. Lyra, he murmured, I will return. I squeezed his hand, desperate to believe it. Don't face him alone. His thumb brushed my skin gently. I won't. My wolf will be with me. But I won't, I whispered. No, he said softly. You'll be here safe, waiting. You are the reason I fight at all. The bond pulled tight between us, humming with fear and longing. Dawn would come soon. And with it, a battle that could claim the Alpha King. Dawn bled slow and cold over Crescent Ridge, staining the snow pink as if the battlefield had already chosen its color. I shouldn't have been there. Rowan had ordered me to stay in the castle, guarded and safe. But the closer dawn crept, the more unbearable the walls felt. Too tight, too silent, too far from him. So I ran. Cloaked in fur, feet slipping over frost, heart hammering like a trapped bird, I climbed the narrow mountain path. Wolves howled in the distance, signals, warnings, calls. Every sound tore at my chest. When I reached the ridge, I froze, breath catching painfully. Rowan stood alone in the clearing, stripped to his war leathers, silver eyes burning with alpha fire. The wind whipped his dark hair. His wolf hovered beneath his skin, ready to shift. 50 paces away stood Darius of Ironfang, a towering wolf shifter with scars carved across his torso and hatred burning in his cold blue gaze. So the rumors are true, Darius called, voice echoing against the cliffs. The mighty Alpha King bends his knee for an Omega slave. Rowan didn't flinch. I won't kneel to you, he said. And I won't apologize for fate. Darius spat. She's a weakness. And I will carve it from your kingdom. My pulse spiked. Rowan's wolf snarled inside him, vibrating the air. This ends today, Darius, Rowan growled. Agreed, the rival Alpha sneered. In a blur of bones and fur, Darius shifted. Massive, dark, monstrous. Rowan shifted seconds later, silver-eyed, powerful, his wolf form a storm-made flesh. The impact of their clash shook the ridge. Claws tore snow. Teeth snapped. Wolves circled with lethal precision. Rowan moved like a force of nature, but Darius fought with brutal, ruthless savagery. Every time Rowan took a hit, pain seared through me through the bond. Rowan! I cried without meaning to. Darius heard me. His head snapped my direction. And in that split second, Rowan faltered. Darius lunged. My scream ripped from my throat as teeth sank into Rowan's shoulder, blood spraying across the frozen ground. No! I ran forward, slipping on ice, tasting panic like metal on my tongue. Rowan staggered but didn't fall. His wolf snarled, fury igniting brighter than pain. He launched himself at Darius with a howl that vibrated the bones of the earth. They collided again, harder, fiercer, wilder. Darius fell first. Rowan pinned him, jaws hovering at the rival Alpha's throat. One bite would end it. Silence swallowed the ridge. Rowan's wolf trembled, breath ragged, every instinct screaming for the kill. But then, he looked at me. And something changed. Slowly, painfully, he released Darius, stepping back. Shifting back into his human form, chest heaving, blood running down his side. Darius staggered upright, stunned. You spare me? He rasped. Rowan wiped blood from his mouth. I choose my destiny, he said. Not slaughter. Not fear. Not the old law. He pointed toward the border. Leave. Never cross into my lands again. Darius bared his teeth, but it wasn't a threat. It was shame. He shifted and fled, Ironfang wolves scattering with him. Rowan watched him go, breathing sharp and shallow. Then his legs buckled. I darted forward, catching him as best I could. He sank to his knees, leaning into me, blood soaking the snow. "Lyra!" he murmured, voice weak. "You're hurt," I choked. "You're bleeding. But you're safe," he whispered. His silver eyes lifted to mine, full of pain and fierce devotion. "That's all I need." And then he collapsed against me, unconscious. Rowan survived, but barely. For 2 days he drifted in and out of fever, his body burning as it struggled to heal the deep wounds Darius left behind. I stayed at his bedside, wiping sweat from his brow, holding his hand through every tremor of pain. "Lyra," he would whisper in fevered dreams. "Don't leave." "I won't," I whispered back every time. The healers came and went. The pack council lingered in the hallways like carrion crows, waiting for weakness. But Rowan fought through. On the third dawn, he woke fully, breath steady, eyes clear. "Hi," I whispered, tears blurring my vision. His hand rose, trembling, to brush my cheek. "You came to the ridge," he murmured. "You disobeyed me." "I had to," I said, voice shaking. "I couldn't stay behind while you risked your life." A long silence stretched between us. His thumb wiped a tear from my skin. "I'm glad you didn't listen," he whispered. I exhaled shakily, relief flooding me. When he stood again days later, still sore but alive, the kingdom gathered in the throne hall. Rumors of his mercy had spread. Of his victory. Of the Omega who stood beside him on the ridge. Rowan took the throne. I stood at his right side. He raised his voice. "By the will of the moon goddess and the blood I shed for this kingdom, I declare a new law." The hall hushed. "No wolf will be executed for mercy. No Omega will be collared. No child will be hunted for surviving. The law will protect, not punish." Shock rippled through the council. "And as for Lyra," Rowan stepped down from the throne, extending his hand toward me. "She is not a slave. She is not a servant. She is my mate. My chosen. My Luna." A gasp swept the hall. Rowan knelt. The Alpha King, kneeling. Not in submission. In devotion. "For freedom born in chains," he said softly, so only I could hear. "I choose you." I placed my trembling hand in his. "And I choose you," I whispered. When he rose, the wolves howled, not in anger, but in reverence. The bond mark shimmered between us, glowing faintly beneath my skin, a promise sealed by destiny and choice. Rowan pulled me close, forehead resting against mine. "You were never born to kneel," he murmured. "And you," I whispered back, "were never meant to rule alone." The blood moon rose behind the stained glass windows, drenching the hall in silver and crimson light. Our kingdom's new beginning. Our shared destiny. And the life the moon goddess had always meant for us. The change in law was spoken in one night. Living it took longer. For a few days the kingdom glowed with the aftertaste of victory. Ironfang had retreated. The Alpha King still stood. An Omega had been named Luna under the blood moon. Wolves howled in the streets, sharing meat and mulled wine, telling the story of Crescent Ridge as if they'd watched it themselves. But beneath the celebration, resistance coiled. I felt it in the glances that slid over me in the great hall, curious, cautious, some openly resentful. Omegas watched me with wide, startled eyes. Alphas watched Rowan, measuring how far he would go to defend what he'd done. The first test came sooner than anyone wanted. A young wolf was dragged into the council chamber 2 nights after the blood moon. He was barely more than a boy, blood on his knuckles, torn leathers hanging off his thin frame. Marin's voice rang out. "He attacked an alpha during training. Struck first. Under the old law, he'd already be dead. And under the new?" another counselor asked sharply. Rowan sat on the throne, cloak pulled around him like shadow, silver eyes steady. I stood beside him, my hand resting lightly on the carved armrest. The boys sent him me, fear, shame, and under it, bright hot pain. What happened? Rowan asked. The boy lifted his head, jaw clenched. He mocked my sister, he muttered. Said omegas were only good for collars and beds. Said the new Luna was a joke. My stomach tightened. I told him to shut up, the boy continued. He laughed. So I hit him. Marin snorted. Disrespecting rank. Striking an alpha. This is why you don't soften the law. Every eye shifted between Rowan and me. Old Rowan, the king who'd inherited this hall drenched in rigid law, would have ordered a lashing at least. Maybe exile. Something harsh enough to keep the council quiet. Rowan leaned forward. Did you intend to challenge him? He asked. Or did you react? The boy's shoulders shook. I just saw my sister's face when he said it. She wears a scar from a collar she never asked for. I wasn't thinking of rank. Only that I was tired of being told we deserve it. Silence wrapped the room. My wolf stirred. I stepped forward before I could doubt myself. Your Majesty, I said softly, but my voice carried. May I speak? Rowan's gaze warmed. Always, Lyra. I turned to the boy. What's your name? Finn, he answered. Finn, I said. You were wrong to use your fists before your words. But you weren't wrong to feel what you felt. I turned slightly to address the room. If we demand respect for the throne, we must also demand respect for those beneath it. Omegas are not your targets. Marin's scent soured. So what? We reward him. No, I said. We teach him. I faced Rowan again. Let him train under the warriors for a moon. Hard work, discipline, service. Let him guard the Omega wing. Let him learn to protect the ones he defended without turning them into a reason for violence. Rowan considered. The council braced for a harsher verdict. At last he nodded. Agreed, he said. Finn, you will serve in the palace guard for 1 moon. Fail in discipline, and we revisit your punishment. Succeed, and you stand as proof that we don't need the old law's cruelty to keep order. Finn's eyes filled. He bowed. Not to the council, but to both of us. Thank you, Alpha King. Thank you, Luna. The word Luna landed in my chest like a new star. As the chamber emptied, Marin lingered, his gaze sharp. This mercy will be your undoing, he muttered to Rowan. The pack will turn on you the first time mercy costs blood. Rowan rose slowly. If that happens, he said, then I will face them with my head high and my bond mark bright. And you, Marin? Will you face your goddess when she asks why you bent her will into fear? Marin said nothing. But the crack in the old world widened. Learning to be Luna felt a lot like learning to breathe in a different world. I had spent my life walking with my head bowed, scent muted, footsteps quiet. Now wolves stepped aside when I walked through the corridors. Guards bowed. Servants straightened. They called me my lady or Luna Lyra. Words that still felt like borrowed clothes. Rowan did everything he could to ease the shift. He brought me to pack council meetings and actually listened when I spoke. He walked the village streets with me at dusk, cloaks brushing, hand hovering near mine, letting the pack see their king not as a distant figure on a throne, but as a wolf willing to walk among them, with his Omega at his side. You're changing their stories, he said one evening as we passed a group of pups playing chase through the market. One little girl with Omega scent giggled as she howled, pretending to be an alpha. Stories? I asked. Of what an Omega can be. Of what an alpha must be. His silver eyes glowed warmly. They will grow up remembering you here, not in chains. We stopped at a small shrine near the outer wall, an old stone alcove with a crescent moon carved into it, candles flickering at its base. Villagers had left offerings, bitten bread, sprigs of herbs, bits of white fur. I knelt to straighten one candle that had fallen, fingers tracing the scratches in the stone. Do you ever ask her questions? I murmured. The moon goddess? Rowan's voice was thoughtful. Less than I should. More than I admit. What do you ask? He was quiet for a long moment. Lately? He said at last. If I'm worthy of what she's given me. I looked up sharply. Rowan. He held up a hand, a small smile touching his mouth. Don't worry. I'm not asking for reassurance. I'm making sure I don't forget that this bond is a gift, not a right. His gaze softened, traveling over my face as if memorizing it for the 100th time. And what do you ask her? He returned gently. I hesitated, then answered honestly. If I'm strong enough to carry what comes with being chosen. We stood there, two wolves beneath a stone crescent, the kingdom breathing around us. Rowan reached down, offering his hand. Then we ask her together, he said. And if she doesn't answer, we make our own. Our fingers laced, palms warm, bond mark pulsing faintly between our skin. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was standing in front of a shrine begging for scraps of hope. I felt like part of the answer. Of course, not everyone wanted the new world. The first real betrayal came quietly, like rot in a bean you thought was strong. It was a crisp evening when one of the palace omegas stumbled into my chambers, eyes wide, hands shaking. Luna, she gasped. You have to come. It's Finn. The guards took him below. My stomach clenched. Finn's moon of service wasn't finished yet. He'd been doing well, eager, overcompensating sometimes, but trying. Below where? I demanded. The old cells? She whispered. Marin said it was by your order. My blood went cold. By my order. Rowan was away on a border ride, inspecting new watch posts alongside scouts and former rogues. The council had grumbled but acquiesced. We'd both known leaving the castle in their hands would test them. Apparently, they'd decided to test me back. I moved fast, cloak flying, heart hammering. Two guards tried to block my way at the stair to the dungeons. Step aside, I said, voice low. We were told. I don't care what you were told. I cut in, letting a thread of alpha energy from the bond leak into my tone. It wasn't true alpha command, but the Luna's bond-fed authority still made them flinch. Move! They moved. The dungeon smelled of damp stone, rust, and old fear. Torches sputtered along the walls. I followed Finn's scent, fearful, angry, threaded with the faint iron tang of blood. I found him in a cell, shackled, lips split, one eye swelling. Marin stood outside the bars, arms folded, accompanied by two counselors. What are you doing? I demanded, fury burning through my chest. Marin didn't even pretend respect. Correcting a mistake, he said. Your mercy has made this boy soft. He raised his voice to an alpha again. He questioned whether you or the king would approve of our orders. Insolence must be crushed. Finn's eyes met mine, desperate. I only said you wouldn't let them send us to the front without training. He burst out. They called me rogue trash. Enough. Marin snapped. I stepped closer to the bars, forcing my voice to stay steady. Release him. No, Marin said. The old law worked. I won't watch you and Rowan tear down everything we built just because the moon goddess tossed you a pretty bond. Pain knifed through me, not because of the insult, but because it confirmed what I'd feared. This wasn't about a boy or even about rogues. It was about control. You dared defy the Luna? I asked quietly. I dared defend the kingdom when its leaders are blinded by desire. He growled. When Rowan returns, he'll see this was necessary. He truly believed it. That made him more dangerous than any rival alpha. I inhaled slowly, calling up Rowan's scent in my memory, the steadying warmth of it, the way his voice wrapped around my name when he was trying not to be afraid. I will not let you drag us backward, I said calmly. Open the cell. No, he barked. I met his gaze straight on. Then I will call the king back and tell him you imprisoned a wolf in his name without his consent. How many followers will you have when he stands against you in front of the entire pack? Marin's jaw clenched. He knew how that spectacle would end. You can't rule on feelings, girl, he said bitterly. I let the word girl slide off me like water. You ruled on fear, I replied. Look where it brought us. A long, thin pause. Then, with a snarl, he snatched the key from his belt and unlocked the cell. Take your project, Luna. He spat. But don't say I didn't warn you when your mercy builds your own pyre. Finn stumbled out. I caught his arm to steady him. Come, I said. We'll get you seen by the healers. As we walked away, I felt Marin's gaze burning into my back. A promise. This was not over. Rowan returned that night to a castle that looked calm on the surface but carried tension like a storm cloud. He found me in the inner courtyard, sitting on a low stone wall beneath the bare branches of an old tree. Finn dozed nearby on a bench, bandaged and breathing evenly. 2 guards with new orders stood watch, not Marin's loyalists. Rowan's boots crunched on the gravel. I looked up, relief hitting me so hard I almost sagged. You're hurt, he said immediately, seeing the smudge of dried blood on my sleeve. His eyes flashed silver. Who? Not mine, I said quickly. Finn's. His gaze shifted to the boy, then back to me, questioning. I told him everything. I watched his face as I spoke, saw the tightening jaw, the darkening eyes, the way his hands flexed as if they wanted a throat in them. When I finished, silence stretched for a heartbeat. Then Rowan exhaled, long and controlled. Marin acts as if the throne belongs to the council, he said. Not to the king. Not to the pack. Not to the goddess. He believes he's protecting what he built, I said quietly. Hard men don't like to admit the foundation was wrong. Rowan's hand came up, brushing a lock of hair from my cheek. Are you all right? He murmured. I'm angry, I said simply. But yes. He nodded once. Good. I'll need you tonight. For what? For truth. That evening, he called an open gathering in the Great Hall. Not just the council, every wolf who could fit between the stone pillars. Warriors, omegas, betas, former rogues. Even pups sat on the stairs, eyes wide. Rowan stood on the dais, cloak thrown back, new bandages visible where Darius's teeth had scarred him. I stood at his side, pulse a drum in my ears. Marin, Rowan said, voice filling the hall. Step forward. The elder alpha did, chin high, glancing around as if expecting support. Is it true, Rowan asked, that you imprisoned a young wolf in my name without my consent? Marin's jaw flexed. I acted in the spirit of the throne. The boy raised his hand to an alpha and... Is it true, Rowan repeated, that you did not consult me? Or the Luna? Or the new law? The hall went very still. This wasn't just about Finn anymore. It was about whether the old guard could act unchecked. Marin's silence was answer enough. Rowan's voice cooled. You were my father's advisor, he said. You taught me to wield fear like a weapon. You taught me the old laws. You warned me that mercy would break me. He stepped down from the dais, closing the distance between them. And I believed you. For years, Rowan said. But then the moon goddess sent me Lyra. She sent me a bond that forced me to question whether I ruled to protect my pack, or my pride. He turned so his voice carried to every corner of the hall. From this night forward, no counselor will have the power to order imprisonment, execution, or exile without the consent of both the Alpha King and the Luna. Your days of ruling from the shadows are over. A murmur rippled through the crowd, surprise, approval, some outrage. I felt the shift in the room like a change in wind. Marin's face went white, then red. You strip the council's teeth, he snarled. I strip its fangs from the throats of my people, Rowan said. You are welcome to stay, Marin, but only if you serve the new law, not your own fear. The old alpha stared at him, breathing hard. For a moment I thought he would lunge, that we'd have a battle in the throne hall itself. Instead, he bowed stiffly. I will not serve a kingdom that bows to an Omega's whims. He spat. Then you will not serve it at all, Rowan replied quietly. Marin straightened. I renounce my seat. Gasps. He turned sharply and strode from the hall. A few wolves glanced after him, torn, but no one followed. Rowan watched him go, shoulders tense. Only when the doors shut behind Marin did he exhale and look at me. "Well," he murmured, voice low enough that only I heard. "That went better than tearing his throat out." I couldn't help it. A startled laugh escaped me, half hysterical, half relieved. "You terrify me," I whispered. "Good," he said dryly. "I terrify me too." But his hand found mine, fingers lacing, grip firm. And the hall began to buzz, not with the old fear, but with the electricity of change. Weeks passed. Snow melted from the ramparts. The scent of thawing earth crept into the courtyards. The kingdom slowly adjusted to its new shape. Rogues who had taken Rowan's offer at the meeting stones now worked side by side with pack-born wolves. Some joined border patrols. Others took up crafts in the village or guard posts in the keep. There were fights, of course, clashes of old grudges and wary instincts, but each one was dealt with by the new law, not the old reflex of exile. Omegas began to walk a little taller. A few asked shyly if they could learn healing from me. Others simply watched from the edges as I moved through the castle, eyes wide, expressions complicated. I knew what they saw, someone who had been one of them, now standing beside the Alpha King. "Do you regret it?" one young Omega whispered one day as she helped me sort herbs in the infirmary. "All the eyes on you. All the weight." I thought about it, about the fear, the scrutiny, the responsibility to be more than I'd ever been allowed to imagine. And about Rowan's hand in mine. His voice when he said my name. The way he knelt in front of the entire pack without shame. "No," I said softly. "I regret the years I believed I would never be anything at all. Not this." She smiled a little, like that answer held a door open inside her. That night, Rowan and I stood on the tower balcony where he had once watched the kingdom alone. Now we watched it together, village fires glowing, wolves moving like shadows, the faint echo of laughter rising with chimney smoke. "We're not done," he said. "There will be more challenges. More Marins." "I know," I replied. "Do you ever wish the moon goddess had chosen someone else?" he asked quietly. "Someone stronger. Someone with a royal bloodline. Someone who already knew how to be Luna." I turned to him, sliding my arms around his waist, feeling the steady thrum of his heart under my palm. "I think," I said, "she chose exactly who she needed. Not a perfect Luna. A stubborn one. One who knew what chains felt like." He huffed a soft laugh, resting his forehead against mine. "And an Alpha King who needed to learn that strength doesn't come from how many wolves kneel," I added. His hands cupped my face, thumbs brushing the bond-marked pulse at my jaw. "I spent so long thinking destiny was something written in stone," he murmured. "Now I think it's written in choices." "In us," I said. "In us," he agreed. He kissed me then, slow and sure, not with the desperate edge of a wolf afraid of losing everything, but with the warm certainty of a mate who knew he was home. Below us, a lone wolf lifted its head and howled. Others answered. Scattered at first, then gathering, a chorus that filled the night. A kingdom's howl. Not of fear. Not of conquest. Of becoming. Spring arrived quietly in the kingdom, slipping between the last threads of winter like a promise fulfilled. Flowers pushed through the frost along the castle walls, and the river thawed into a silver ribbon winding through the valley. Life returned in colors I had never seen as a child, colors I never believed I'd be allowed to touch. Rowan and I walked the forest path just beyond the keep, where moonlit snow had once buried everything. Now birds rustled through branches, and the air smelled of pine resin and damp earth. Rowan's fingers brushed mine as we walked, not demanding, just there, steady, warm, grounding. "It feels different out here," I whispered. "Because you're breathing freely," he murmured. For the first time. A soft breeze swept through, carrying the sound of distant laughter from the village. Omegas and Alphas worked side by side preparing for the season's first celebration, one Rowan insisted be held in honor of new beginnings rather than bloodlines. We reached a small clearing, a circle of wildflowers just beginning to bloom. Rowan stopped at the center and turned to me, silver eyes warm as dawn. "Lyra," he said softly, "I built a kingdom on fear. But you gave it a future." "I only did what I believed was right," I murmured. "And that," he said, "is why you are Luna." He took my hands in his, the morning light filtering through the branches and painting gold across his hair. When he leaned forward, his forehead pressed gently to mine, the bond mark pulsed between us, warm, steady, certain. "From chains to crown," he whispered. "From silence to destiny." My breast shook. "From Alpha King to mate." His lips curved, soft and full of devotion. "To my Luna." He kissed me, slow, tender, sealing the end of one life and the beginning of another. The forest around us swayed, leaves whispering blessings we could almost hear. And as our wolves brushed against each other within the bond, peaceful and strong, I finally understood. I had not been chosen because I was born in chains. I had been chosen because I had survived them. And now, beside the Alpha King, in a kingdom beginning again, I was free. Truly free. Thank you for listening to this Alpha and Omega story of destiny, love, and transformation. If you enjoyed this tale, stay tuned. More cinematic moon goddess romances, fated mate epics, and Alpha King stories are on the way.